Tesla is virtually recalling nearly 300,000 cars in China to implement a software update related to assisted driving. And authorities there say the cruise control can be activated accidentally. This you do not want to happen.
Hey everybody, welcome back. My name's Nicholas and this is Investing Against the Grain. In today's episode, we're going to cover the GM and Honda partnership, and we're also going to go over the recalls that were announced over the weekend in China for Tesla. So stick around, we have a good episode for you. Please like and subscribe, and let's get into it.
Welcome back, everybody. Honda outlining its plan to develop and sell electric vehicles with some help from a rival. Phil LeBeau joins us right now with more. Phil, good morning.
Good morning, Becky. This is an announcement from Honda that it is committing to be all electric by 2040, starting with its first electric model specifically for North America coming in 2024. Here's the announcement from Honda this morning. It plans to make 2 electric vehicles that will roll out here in the North American market, specifically for the United States in 2024. There will be the Prologue, that's the name of the electric SUV from Honda, and there's an unnamed Acura EV, again, both in 24, built on the Ultium platform. You might be saying to yourself, Ultium, isn't that General Motors? Yes, it will be built on the GM electric vehicle platform. We'll explain more about that in a little bit.
First, the good. On the one hand, it's great that Honda is finally realizing, awakening to the fact that the world is transitioning to an all-electric vehicle paradigm. This is happening. There's no other way about it. It's every car manufacturer out there is trying to get in the game. They're all behind Tesla, but either way, they're all waking up. So on the one hand, kudos to Honda. Great job. Happy you finally jumped on the bandwagon. Good for you. Maybe you won't go bankrupt. On the other hand, partnering with GM is an interesting move. It's even more curious for GM, but we'll go into that in a little bit here. By 2040, they anticipate being fully electric. By 2040, you won't be a company if you're not fully electric by 2030. You won't exist. GM might even just be partnering up with you right now so they can buy you out eventually. This is probably how a lot of these companies are going to start to merge together when they fall into bankruptcy. So 2040, that's not going to work. You're going to have to be done by 2030. Now, the other part is that you're coming out with 2 new vehicles, all-electric vehicles, by 2024. Now, is that, in my opinion, a little late? Yeah, probably. But you know what? We'll give you a buy. At least you're doing it. At least you're getting there. At least you're trying to innovate and pivot away from the internal combustion engine and away from the hydrogen fuel cells. You're going towards what the future is.
Just like its other Japanese competitors, like Toyota, has largely been focusing on hybrid electric models over the last several years. 7% of its U.S. sales are hybrid electrics. By the way, this is a hybrid electric CR-V that the company is rolling out.
Did I just hear that? Did Phil just say what I think he said? This is a hybrid electric? Oh my goodness. Honda, you're limping into the race. You're going hybrid electric? What is this? Either get in or don't play. And if you don't play, you're going bankrupt. I don't understand why these companies want to take this half-ass approach and not go all in on fully electric. This just doesn't make any sense to me. And I guess they're both going to be hybrids? The reason you said 2040 to go all electric is because you're not going to be around 2040. You're going to be part of another company at this rate.
You've got global growth in EVs, though, that is going to be so strong. The market is clearly moving towards pure electric vehicles that Honda, within the last year, has made it very clear that it will get into the game and start rolling.
For a second, this is Cnbc. That is Phil LeBeau. He just said the market is clearly going to EVs. The demand is insane. Phil LeBeau on CNBC. I have never heard him say anything optimistic the way he is right now. Phil LeBeau is normally the one they send out to explore all the fracking and oil refineries and drill ships out there for the oil industry. And Phil LeBeau is saying this. Maybe he's coming around too. Honda's coming around. Phil's coming around.
Them out, going all electric, completely electric by 2040. Its sales year to date, as you take a look at shares of Honda, up 42.5%. And then we also want to take a look at General Motors. And why are we looking at General Motors? Because Honda has been working with General Motors on a number of projects, including electric vehicles, and it will use the Ultium platform. So that means that this vehicle will be built at a GM plant on the Ultium electric vehicle platform, but the interior and the exterior of the vehicle will be designed and built by Honda. They haven't said what plant that will be built at yet. So this is two major automakers working together when it comes to electric vehicles, and a big commitment by Honda, guys, to get in the game when it comes to electric vehicles.
I can understand from maybe the Honda perspective, right? Honda, maybe they're falling behind on battery production, their innovation. Maybe, they don't have a powertrain. They're not good at the motors. Maybe they're just so far behind. They said, hey, we need to partner with somebody who's already made the investments, and we need to leverage their investments to move forward. Okay, from Honda, makes sense. And all they're providing is the interior and essentially the shell, the cabin of the vehicle. GM's side of things makes zero sense in my opinion. GM is providing the batteries and powertrain. Last I checked, the biggest bottleneck when it comes to any EVs, any manufacturer, whether it's Tesla, Audi, BMW, Volkswagen, any of the startups, NIO, XPeng, doesn't matter who, the biggest bottleneck are batteries. Batteries. Tesla is building battery factories along all of their car manufacturing plants right now. Giga Berlin, Giga Austin, Shanghai, they all have battery manufacturing plants attached to them. On top of that, Elon has said on every single conference call for the last 2 quarters to all of his battery manufacturers, make as much as you can, we will buy them. The reason we are building battery factories is to supplement on top of that. Why? Because batteries are the main bottleneck. That's the choke point. Whoever wins the battery game, whoever can get the most volume will win the EV world, the EV game, right? Like, that's just the way it works. Like, whoever can get to mass volume first will conquer. Now, why would GM be willing to give up their batteries? This makes no sense to me.
Yeah, Phil, when you showed that chart of what they're anticipated for 2030 and then 2040,
right,
just how many vehicles they're going to be manufacturing.
Right.
The one thing that kind of springs to mind is that we better get more charging stations. If you're going to be a plan to be all electric by 2040, there aren't enough charging stations to sort of handle plans like these. Where do things stand with that?
Yes and no, Becky. At this point, no. And you do need more. But keep in mind, the overwhelming majority of people who have an electric vehicle, they charge at home. And as you get greater efficiency and greater range with electric vehicle batteries, you now have batteries that are going well over 300 miles, or at least 250 to 350 miles. You have people saying, look, on average, 80% of Americans drive just 40 miles a day. So, yes, you do need those charging stations, especially if you're making a long trip. But for most people, if they're tootling around doing their business, they've gotten more than enough range, and they've got those charging stations at home.
I just think about how many times I walk out of the house without my phone being fully charged, and I always think, oh, good thing I have a charger in the car. I don't know where your backup is for your car when you forget to charge it.
What is Becky talking about? Does she equate a cell phone not being fully charged when you leave your home to your electric vehicle not being fully charged when you leave home? This is apples and oranges, Becky. Okay, let me take a step back here, because I might seem a little reactive right now to this. I have a routine with my fiance. Every morning, we wake up, we come downstairs, we make a cup of coffee, we sit on the couch, we turn on Squawk Box, and we watch Squawk Box. We enjoy it. We really do. And Becky is normally my favorite one out of Andrew and Joe. Normally she's my favorite. I don't understand what happened here. I don't know what she just drank. Becky, let me explain how this works to you. When you get home with your car, you plug it in. You go upstairs. That's not what you normally do with your phone. When you get home with your phone, normally you don't just plug it in. Normally you're walking around, you're Twittering, you're Instagramming, you're looking up emails, you're working on it, you're making phone calls, you're FaceTiming, you're looking up recipes. You're using your phone actively when you're home. You're not doing that with your car. Well, Okay, maybe if you have the Plaid and new PS5, type graphics, okay, maybe you're gaming in there, but odds are you're not. Becky, when you leave home with your car, it's going to be fully charged. I expect this from people who don't know much about EVs or anything, but you're on TV, you're mainstream media. You should know these things before you talk about them.
And you don't do it all the time, Phil, but everybody does it at some point.
You run low in gas?
I don't know, but just go more than 40 miles. I mean, it doesn't mean, you don't do it every day, but there are days I do. There are days that it does happen, and it would be a total
There are days I drive more than 300 miles.
You're
not
right.
very often, but...
You're right, and that's why you need fast charging EV stations, and that's part of the Biden infrastructure.
Joe, we're not saying you can only drive 40 miles with the EV. You can drive 300 plus miles, and then yes, you will have to charge just like you would have to go to a gas station. But where is the disconnect here? Guys, there are charging stations all around the country, all around the world. Sandy Munro just drove all the way to California in a Tesla. This isn't a real problem. And like Phil said, which again, I can't believe I'm agreeing with Phil. Like, I don't know what's happening today, but Phil even said it. 80%, it's actually higher. More than 80% of people drive less than 40 miles a day. And they're going to be charged fully every day when they get home. This is a non-issue.
Bill, to have 500,000 of those built through this program. We've got about 80,000, I think, in the United States in terms of actual sites. Now, you look at the stations within each site, there's multiple stations. But they want to go from 80,000 to 85,000 sites, which we have around the country right now, public charging stations, up to 500,000.
And I guess I get it. It would certainly be a car I could drive to work every day. But we do make some long trips to visit relatives and to do other things.
You do.
And
look, Becky, I'm not denying that, Becky. What I'm saying is this is part of people having to make that choice.
I don't know what has happened here. Phil's getting annoyed. Phil is getting upset with the lack of understanding. This is such a basic concept. And even Phil LeBeau is getting upset with this. This is a day for the record books. I cannot believe how much I'm agreeing with Phil and how much he seems to be on board with EVs.
Are we going to go all electric? And if we are, we will need fast charging EVs, and that technology is coming along, and we will also need more charging stations. But I'm telling you, the majority of the people, they charge their vehicle at home. And yes, some people will forget to charge their vehicle. You're going to see this. This is just part of the evolution that we're going to see over the next, I'd say, 5 to 7 years, where people are just going to have to make that decision of, if I'm going all electric.
Notice he said over the next 5 to 7 years. What have I been saying? Over the next decade. And what's Honda doing? Fully electric by 2040. I mean, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure this out, but if you wanted one, go talk to Elon.
I will have to be charged up, and then I'm going to have to think through things like a longer trip.
Right. Hey, Phil, I have a question related to Honda, and it relates to Honda and relates to Tesla, which is to say, as you have more and more car companies getting into the EV business, are their batteries any better, or how much worse than Tesla? I ask only because part of the whole sort of Tesla narrative is that they are so far out ahead of everybody else, that their technology is so much better that even when the Hondas of the world get there, they will have then leapfrogged them onto the next big either battery technology or something else. Is that the case or not really?
The big focus when you look at electric vehicle batteries is the cost. And Tesla is the leader, has been the leader, and will likely remain the leader, according to most who have studied this, through the end of this decade. However, when you look at General Motors, which is probably the closest comparison, they are closing the gap to the point that most say, look, by the end of the decade, they're going to be very, very close to Tesla. That Tesla will not have this clear advantage when it comes to battery costs.
We were so close. We were so close, Phil. Phil, you were so close. You were right there, and then you just fell off the edge. You just had to stop. You had to stop and not walk anymore. That's all you had to do, Phil. First of all, Andrew finally asking a question worth asking on this topic of EVs, Tesla, Honda, GM, batteries. And Phil, you had it right. They are the leader. It is the consensus. It is a fact. They do more with less. They are cheaper. They're less kilowatts with longer range. There's no question about that. Now, where you messed up was saying that by the end of the decade, you won't be able to tell the difference between GM and Tesla. That makes absolutely no sense. The only way that would work is if Tesla just stopped where they were. And even if they stopped where they were, they're still 5 to 6 years ahead of GM. GM plans on reducing the price of their batteries by 60% by 2025. Plan. They haven't started. They don't have an assembly line. They don't have a proof of concept. They don't have anything yet. That's the plan, 60%. Tesla is reducing 60% now. They have an assembly line. They're already manufacturing. They're already doing all the beta tests for it. And it will be ready by the end of this year. Like, this is... Do you really think that Tesla's going to stop iterating on top of what they've done? No. They're going to keep moving ahead.
Phil LeBeau, thank you for tootling around with us this morning.
Yeah.
I love that.
Good word.
Tootling around town. Toodaloo.
Okay. We'll end it there for this segment on tootling around. Let's move on to one last topic, something that came up over the weekend with regards to Tesla and this supposed recall in China. So here's what actually happened. The media just grossly misreported on this. China had essentially asked Tesla to make it more difficult for users to engage autopilot. So the way it works is you pull down the stalk twice and it engages autopilot. So the media ran with this and just blew it out of proportion, saying that Tesla had a massive recall on all 250,000 vehicles that had been made and sold in China, and they just ran with it. Let's have a look.
Tesla is virtually recalling nearly 300,000 cars in China to implement a software update related to assisted driving, and authorities there say the cruise control can be activated accidentally. This you do not want to happen, causing the cars to suddenly accelerate. China's market regulator says the recall covers the Model 3 and the Model Y only vehicles. The majority were built in China. The owners will not actually have to return the vehicles in order to receive the update. It will be done via software.
Let's just break this down for a second. So first of all, they said that people can accidentally get it into autopilot. In order to do that, you have to pull down the stalk aggressively twice. Please explain to me how that can be accidentally done. Then you hear Joe kind of take a spin on what happened over the weekend and call it a virtual recall. Effectively, we're making up new terms. Instead of saying, hey, we screwed up, we made a mistake, which is what every single media outlet did out there. They heard something happened, some news, whatever, that China asked Tesla to do something. They called it a recall, and because Tesla was involved, every single news organization blew it out of the water. Why? Because Tesla will get you clicks, it'll get you views, and it will make big-time headlines for you. This is the problem with media today. And it's not just CNBC, it's all media out there. All these mainstream media who are dying because of YouTube and Spotify and other mediums, they are doing whatever they can to get the clickbait, to get the views. And what's happening as a result of that is a gross misconduct on behalf of these journalists, reporters. They're not doing what they're supposed to do. Okay, I want to leave this on a high note. So let's take a step back and look at things from a macro perspective. This is a very, very big deal that Honda and GM are finally understanding that the EV world is a reality, that the whole transition to electrical vehicles is happening. It's happening now. Even the likes of Phil LeBeau is saying it's going to happen within 5 to 7 years. This is monumental, and it's going to be the beginning of this huge paradigm shift and the realization as all of these ICE vehicle manufacturers go ahead and shift on down the line. Now, I don't think Honda or GM will be winners by any means. I think there will be a lot of consolidation, but at the end of the day, these are the right steps towards the right direction to a sustainable future. Okay, everybody, we'll leave it there. Check out some of my other videos, and I'll see you guys next time.